Welcome back. I'd like to begin with a lovely quote that was put together by an unknown author. If you would grow to be your best self, be patient, not demanding, accepting, not condemning, nurturing, not withholding, self-marveling, not belittling, gently guiding, not pushing and punishing, for you are more sensitive than you know. Humankind is tough as war, yet delicate as flowers. We can endure agonies, but we often fully only open to warmth and light. And our need to grow is fragile as a fragrance, dispersed by storms of will, to return only when those storms are still. So accept, respect, attend to your sensitivity. A flower cannot be opened with a hammer. The third element of an Advent spirituality is preparation. So if Mary models for us the second element, John models for us the third element. Remember how often he proclaimed, "Prepare the way of the Lord." You and I both know that all great things need a significant time of preparation. Think how many hundreds of hours it takes for you to prepare your plans for how you celebrate the Christmas season. Or you've just been through Thanksgiving, you know what that's like. Or preparing for your vacation. All great things take time of preparation. So this is why, as we do this work of preparing, we have to ask ourselves, what do we need to do to prepare for the coming of the Lord? Very serious work indeed. Well, the first thing may surprise you, and that is to be on guard. To be on guard. Remember the story from the book of Genesis where Adam and Eve are kicked out of the Garden of Eden because of their choice? God placed an angel at the gate of the garden that had a flaming sword, never to be moved. It was God's way of saying, you cannot come back in. This is a transformative work that you are about. I have sent you out into the world that through the work that's been given to you, you and I together will work for your salvation. And so it is that we are to guard our hearts, to protect ourselves, and to protect anything that comes into our interior life. How often we can take things too personally. My friends, great wisdom was passed on to me. Don't take things personally. Somebody calls your name or gossips about you. You have no idea where that came from. Just don't take it personally. When you choose not to take it personally, you have reinvigorated yourself. You've honored the truth of who you are. You know who you are. You don't need to defend yourself. Somebody cuts you off on the freeway? Don't take it personally. Somebody speaks well of you? Don't take it personally. Just say thank you. It's kind of you. And so on and so forth. To not take it personally is an example of how to guard your heart. Another way is when you're overwhelmed by negative news. You guard your heart by choosing to read less of the news. Keep in mind that all news media is based on telling the facts of bad news. So with that in mind, how can you guard your heart? Maybe it means cutting back on the amount of information you take in at any one time. Whether it's through your television, it's online through the computer, or in your cell phone. Same with the negative news that you hear other people talking about. To know for yourself when is enough enough. So a tool that can help you along with guarding your heart is practicing what is called a lectio on your life. Now, lectio divina, we'd mentioned before, that is reading and praying with the scriptures, placing yourself in the scriptures and interacting with the scriptures. A lectio on your life is remembering your life, imagining your life, but this time picturing Jesus there with you, especially in times that have been traumatic or hurtful. Jesus doesn't take away the memory of the event, but he helps you release the pain of that event so that you can, what we call, suffer wisely. and not unconsciously. So how that works is, if there's something that just happened to you within the last few days, few weeks, or few years of your life, close your eyes and picture the scene once again as clear as you can. But this time, picture Jesus there with you. And with him there at your side, go through the memory again. But this time, interact with Jesus. What is it you need to say to him? What is it you want him to do in the memory? Remember, it's the memory that's continuing to persecute you, or to harm you, or to upset you. So by doing a lectio on your life, it helps you to discover the presence of Jesus there in a way that can help you, guide you, strengthen you. The message that Jesus gives us is that we are to move from distraction to watchfulness. We're to pay attention to the details of our life. If not, we can easily get distracted. Remember when I was in class many years ago, the professor presented to us this video. And before he presented the video, he said, listen, there's going to be two groups of adults, one in blue shirts and one in red shirts. And you're going to be passing this ball back and forth. I want you to count the number of times that the ball is passed between the members of the blue team and the members of the red team. Count. So we're all saying, yeah, okay, we'll do that. So he starts the video, and sure enough, we see these balls going back and forth, and we're studiously counting the balls. And then he stops the video and he says, okay, how many of you counted 16? And some of us raised our hand. Great. How many of you got 17? The rest of us said, oh yeah, we got 17. Very good. How many of you noticed the man in the gorilla suit who came in the middle of the crowd and waved his arms? And we all started laughing. There was no gorilla. One tentative, shy woman raised her hand and said, I did. He said, congratulations. And we went, what? He says, watch. He goes back and replayed the video. And sure enough, in the middle of all this activity, here comes this man in a gorilla suit, right in the middle, waving his arms and acting like a gorilla, and then off he went. Most of us didn't even see it. In a similar way, Jesus said the same thing to his listeners. Do you not see? Can you not see in the sun and the animals and the earth God's work at hand? So often we miss the very truth of what God is trying to teach us. Many years ago, when I was a teenager, my mother had just spent about 2.5 hours preparing dinner. We sat down to our meal, we said grace, and all of us began to eat. Now, my mom had 9 sons and 2 daughters. As you can imagine, we boys had a tremendous appetite, and we began to wolf down that food. And we were done, I'm not kidding you, eating our dinner in 10 minutes. My mom slammed down her fork and said, that's enough of this. And we all froze. And she said, this will not happen again. And we all began to think, oh my God, does that mean she's never going to cook? But we were really quiet, and she said, I just spent 2.5 hours cooking this meal for us. And you boys finished it in 10 minutes. This is not going to happen again. Even my father saw a look at my mother's face and thought, oh boy. So thankfully, she didn't make up her mind what she wanted until 2 days later. She came back and she said, from now on, I'm not doing this alone. And she created what she called our worksheet. She had 2 of her children assigned to her to be like her kitchen helpers. There were 3 people assigned to washing and drying the dishes. And there were another couple people assigned to clean up. And what she taught us was, just like the Eucharist, we cannot have a meal without more than one person involved. We grew up with that Eucharistic sense, and it all came out of this frustrating experience from my mother, the head chef. So the question again that I have for you is, what do you need to do in preparation for the coming of the Lord in your own life? What do you need to do for the preparation for the coming of the Lord in your own life? So I would like to invite you to think about a way of fasting to prepare for the coming of the Lord. Yes, of course, you can fast from food, or a particular type of drink, by all means. But here are some ideas that I think might also help you to think more deeply about the great traditional practice of fasting. It adds strength and energy to our prayer. To practice fasting from judging others and feast on God dwelling in these same individuals. To fast from thoughts of illness or fears of illness, especially in this COVID-19 situation, and feast on the healing power of God. To fast from anger, bitterness, and resentment, and to feast on patience and forgiveness. To fast from worry and to feast on divine providence. To fast from negatives and feast on positives. To fast from complaining and feast on appreciation. To fast from anxiety and feast on hope. So you get the idea. Again, here are some questions to stir inside your own heart, your prayer and your reflection. What do you want God to bring to you during this Advent or at Christmas time? What do you want God to bring to you? Secondly, what are you willing to give to God? You know, we all struggle with life. It's not easy for anyone. Life is difficult. It's one of the great truths of Buddha. It's also a truth of Christianity when Jesus said, "Take up your cross and follow me." The cross is the challenge of life. It's our life. So our life is not determined by what happens to us, but by how we handle what happens to us. It's not by what life brings to us, but by the attitude that we bring to life. A positive attitude causes a chain reaction of positive events and outcomes. The prophet Isaiah in chapter 40, verse 31 says, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not grow faint." When it rains, most birds head for the shelter of trees. But the eagle is a different type of bird. It's the only bird that, in order to avoid the rain, starts flying above the clouds. There's an amazing insight about the eagle. The eagle has the ability to see, flying at the altitude of 1,000 feet over open country, can easily spot a prey of within 3 square miles from a fixed position. That is an amazing gift. No wonder God wants us to spread our wings and to soar like eagles. As we do that, we discover that God doesn't want us to remain stuck inside the darkness of our life, in the tear-filled valleys of our life. God wants us to rise above and to see from the larger perspective. So the last element or theme of an Advent spirituality is self-emptying. Once again, Mary is the one who models this for us. The word in Greek is kenosis. Now, ladies, this for you may sound difficult to hear, but it's about letting go of selfishness or a self-serving way of doing things. Now, very often for many women, it's not thinking enough of yourself, where we men tend to do the opposite. We think about ourselves first and then, about the other people. Many wives have told me that very clearly. So the core is, remember the teaching of Jesus. He said, we are to practice loving God above all, and to love one another as we love ourselves. Not less than, not more than. This wonderful balance of that collaborative, cooperative effort, and it is an effort, to love one another. So this is the work of service. How do we serve in such a way that we honor both the one serving and the one being served? It is here that we can be open to the great truths that many saints discover, that in serving another, we begin to see another side, another invitation to our humanity. We begin to experience Christ hidden in his wonderful disguise in this other person who is in need. So what we're saying, in effect, is that we are to die to ourself, to our own wants, to our own desires, to our own plans, to our own thoughts, so that we don't hold on to this. This is the only way it can be. This is the way of metanoia, transformation, a new way of seeing other or seeing our life situation. So as St. Vincent de Paul taught, to serve the poor is a privilege because it helps us face our own poverty. St. Vincent de Paul also said, when you've finished helping someone who is poor and in need, thank them for the privilege because you have encountered the face of Christ. I remember this story when I was a formator in the seminary, that we sent 2 of our seminarians to spend a month with a parish situation, and part of the parish was experiencing a retreat on the theme of poverty. Their month, both of them told me, was transformative for them, because in the experience, they found themselves in the poverty of those they helped. Most of us run from people who are poor, whether it's intellectually impoverished, emotionally impoverished, spiritually poor, or economically poor. Facing oppression is a difficult, painful thing because at some level, if we do it authentically, we are facing our own impoverishment, our own loss. So what is the struggle in your own life that you want to overcome? What breakthrough would you like for this new year? These are the questions that each of us need to ask. It's in this particular interface with the question, we begin to recognize something profound taking place. I want to finish with a final story called The Beggar King. It's a story about this king who was well loved and well admired by all of his subjects. The only drawback was this man had no children to leave his kingdom to. He was getting on in age, and so he wanted the best for his people, and so he came up with a wonderful idea. He sent out a message to all of his subjects and said, I'd like to invite any and all young person who would like to apply to be the next king, that you are to come forward and present yourself, and I'll see to it that I'll make the wisest decision that I can for all of you. And so one by one, they all began to make plans and getting ready and getting dressed up the way they thought would be appropriate for a prince. There was this one very poor boy who wanted very much to be able to see the king. And he was delighted by at least the possibility. And so he worked very hard and saved his money. Eventually, he was able to buy a new suit of clothes. And so he let go of his very poor outfit, he got dressed, and he started heading towards the palace. On the way, he came across a very poor beggarman. This man obviously was cold in that he was shivering in the fact that it was so cold. So the boy couldn't help himself, and he saw in the beggar himself. And so he decided, I'll swap clothes with him, and that's exactly what he did. And then he turned to go back home because they realized it would not be a good idea to present himself before the king dressed like a beggar. But then he thought, oh, what the heck, at least I'll be able to see the king from a distance. And so as he presented himself at the doors of the palace, he was prevented by the king's guards. But someone else said, no, the king said, admit anyone who comes. And so the boy was escorted up, and he was surprised that he was brought into the presence of the king. As he got closer, he was surprised. He recognized the man. And he was astounded. The king was wearing his clothes, the boy's clothes. And he stood up, he put his arms out, and he said, welcome home, my son. You're the one I choose to be the prince, the next king. My friends, that is the Christ we worship. He takes upon himself whatever we offer him, and he transforms it, not only in state, but in relationship. And he says to us, welcome home into my heart. I leave you with this final blessing written by Joyce Rupp. May there be harmony in all your relationships. May sharp words, envious thoughts, and hostile feelings be dissolved. May you give and receive love generously. May this love echo in your heart like the joy of church bells on a clear December day. May each person who comes in your life be greeted as another Christ. May the honor given the babe of Bethlehem be that which you extend to every guest who enters your presence. May the hope of this sacred season settle in your soul. May it be a foundation of courage for you when times of distress occupy your inner land. May the wonder and awe that fills the eyes of children be awakened within you. May it lead you to renew awareness and appreciation of whatever you too easily take for granted. May the bonds of love for one another be strengthened as you gather with your family and friends around the table of festivity and nourishment. May you daily open the gift of your life and be grateful for the hidden treasures it contains. May the coming year be one of good health for you. May you have energy and vitality. May you care well for your body, mind, and spirit. May you keep your eye on the star within you and trust this luminescent presence to guide and direct you each day. May you go often to the Bethlehem of your heart and visit the one who offers you peace. May you bring this peace into our world. Amen. God bless you, and may you have a blessed Advent and a very happy and prosperous Christmas and New Year.